Okay. All right. All right. Can you see and hear me? Good. Okay. Thank you. So we're on chapter 10. As I said, I am in Port Royal, Pennsylvania at the Gita Nagari Eco Farm. My son, Nisringadev, is doing a kids camp here. He's having a great time. We were at a lake today. That's why I got back a little late. So happy to be with you all, no matter the circumstances. So, all right. Can I get a little light here? Okay. So let us just let me get a little bit set up here. So, okay, turn that off, turn that off. Never. Yes, that's perfect. Thank you. All right. Hmm? That's good. Yeah, that's good. As much. All right, let's begin. Welcome. Thank you all for taking time out of your schedule to join me live from Gita Nagari Eco Farm in Port Royal, Pennsylvania. And we'll begin this evening on text 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And I think we left off at 25. So I will begin at 25. Let's redo it, okay? So we get a good reference point of what we've been speaking about. This chapter is entitled "The Opulence of the Absolute." So Krishna here is giving us um, qualities, characteristics that we can meditate upon and understand. Because oftentimes people are wanting, they'll say, how come I don't see God? How do I see God? That's the question that arises in people who are curious or interested in connecting with the Supreme. And Krishna gives us opportunities in the Bhagavad Gita, seventh chapter, this 10th chapter, which is kind of the heart of the Gita, to have a very clear, crystal clear way to meditate. That's the one thing about Bhagavad Gita, which is why it has remained, in the forefront of spiritual knowledge for thousands of years since it was spoken by Lord Krishna himself over 5,000 years ago, because it brings clarity to the process of connecting. Yoga means the process of connecting, to connect or to link up with or union with. So it gives a great amount of clarity to the process of connecting to the Supreme. And then what are you connecting to when you say the Supreme, or when you say God, or when you say Krishna, or Allah, Buddha, Jehovah? Whenever you bring to mind your desire, your manifest desire, when you want to connect to God, then there is a way to do it, and a crystal clear understanding of what that is. Um, Philosophy and knowledge are important to keep us on track, and to keep everything crystal clear. If we don't have knowledge about the Supreme, quite often it could be your pursuit is sentimental, because you don't really know God, and the path that you may have doesn't give you any road signs. There's no clear destination that's there, but not so in Bhagavad Gita. And because Krishna says in the eighth chapter that what you are thinking of at the time of death, that propels you to your destination. So that is why in yoga, there is a thing called sadhana. Sadhana means practice, our spiritual practice. In the bhakti yoga sadhana, our practice is to chant God's names. because it is described in the Vedas that there are four yugas, four time periods. And it starts with Satya Yuga, which is the best of the time periods. It is where people are almost 100% of the population is spiritually inclined and they live a long life. And therefore, the what's called the Yuga Dharma, or the process by which you can link up with God, is meditation. So that's Satya Yuga, and that is the golden age, so to speak. And then the three others are um, Treta Yuga, that is after Satya Yuga. So about 75% of humanity is spiritually inclined and on a path of spirituality. And therefore, because there's a little bit of decrease, because as you'll see, as we progress in these time periods from Satya to Kali, from the golden period to the Iron Age, you'll see there's a decrease in interest, the capability of humanity to even understand the process of linking up yoga. So, and therefore, just like a good doctor, depending on you may have a particular illness, but it may be just the beginning stage. And therefore, what is required to deal with that illness is adjusted by the doctor, because let's say you have a sore throat, but it might be the beginning stage of a sore throat, and therefore the doctor gives you something to deal with it. In our home, when we start getting a little bit of a sore throat, we immediately start sucking on cloves, because cloves are very powerful, especially in dealing with sore throats. So a doctor knows the patient and then makes the adjustment according to the degree of illness that patient has. So as we're progressing in these yugas, or these time periods from Satya to Treta, there is an adjustment on what should be practiced in order to link up with the Supreme. So as I said, Satya Yuga, the golden age, this is where most of humanity, if not all of humanity, is on a spiritual path, recognizes that there is God, and there is on a path to link up with God. The next one, Treta, it's diminished a little bit, and therefore the Yuga Dharma, the process, goes from it's not that there is no more meditation. It's just that meditation is not the emphasis, because people are less capable to properly perform meditation. So it's not that we just do away with meditation. Meditation is still there. Even to this age of Kali, there is still meditation. But it's not the recommended process for the general body of humanity. So Treta Yuga is sacrifice, that is yajna, or sacrifice, and this is the recommended process. And within yajna, or sacrifice, there's yoga and there is meditation. The yoga that's performed so that the priest who's doing the yajna can sit in his meditation while performing the sacrifice. So yoga is there, meditation is still there, but the emphasis, the Yuga Dharma, the process by which all of humanity can benefit from if they follow, is called sacrifice. When we get to Dwapara Yuga, which is further degenerated in terms of time, we have about 50% of humanity that is on a spiritual path and can have the capability of understanding that there is spirituality and there is the performance of yoga to link up. See, this is the thing. We have to get out of our mind what modern commercial yoga means. And, it doesn't mean you just go in your Lululemon outfit and you go perform asana. When yoga is talked about, particularly in relationship to these other ages, it means the process that is followed so that we can link up with God, with the Supreme. So in Dwapara Yuga, which is further down the line in terms of degeneration of consciousness ability, then what we have is temple worship. And that is why you see in India to this day, there's temples all over the place, and you see in Christianity and Islam, you have an emphasis on in Islam, an emphasis on beautiful mosques. In Christianity, you have an emphasis on beautiful cathedrals. If you go to Italy, for instance, practically speaking, in every town, every major town and village, there are beautiful cathedrals or churches and adorned with deeply religious subject matter on the walls, etc. So temple worship. And then finally, the age that we're in, the age of Kali Yuga. So temple worship is the Yuga Dharma of Dwapara, which is the age that just passed. Kali Yuga is considered like the winter season, and there's no leaves on the tree. There's very little interest in or even capability of understanding a process, a valid process that will bring us to union with God. So Kali Yuga, the Yuga Dharma for Kali Yuga is chanting God's names. And that's why you see an emphasis on mantra, because by chanting, by meditation on God's names, that all of his potency is invested in that sound. So a person who is sincere in linking up with the Supreme, linking up with God, can develop the ability to meditate on sound, the sound of God's names, because there is a verse which says that there is no difference between the name of God and God himself. That sound is God. It's not like material sound. Water is the sound vibration of a particular object. The substance water needs to be experienced. It's separate than its sound. You won't get the same satisfaction by saying water that you'll get when you experience water, like drinking water. The thirst is being quenched. The taste of water is unique in and of its own. All of those qualities of water are not invested into the sound vibration. That's the difference between material sound and spiritual sound. But in spiritual sound, thus the emphasis on mantra, which means man means mind, cha means to liberate or to free. So mantra means to liberate or free the mind from its illusion that it's the body. And once the mind is freed from that illusion, it begins to understand that it's something other than the body, with other characteristics than the material characteristics of the body, it being temporary, it having to take birth, it growing old, it getting disease, and ultimately the death of the body. Then we get a deeper understanding that there's something which is motivating the body, something which enters into at the time of conception, and something which leaves at the time of death, and that is the soul. And that is why we have knowledge and understanding to fix our minds on that principle and on that knowledge that's there. So let's read. I gave you a kind of introduction, which will help us in the following verses. Okay, this is small print, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult for me to read. I can't read the Sanskrit. It's a little too small for me, so I'll just read the English if you don't mind. Of the great sages, this is text 25 in chapter 10 of Bhagavad Gita. Of the great sages, I am Brigu. Of vibrations, I am the transcendental Om. Of sacrifice, I am the chanting of the holy names of God, japa. And of immovable things, I am the Himalayas. So, among sacrifices, this part of the verse is I am japa, and this is why you see to a great degree when someone is practicing bhakti yoga, in its real form, not something that's speculative or made up. But bhakti yoga is given to us in the sacred texts like Bhagavad Gita and other sacred texts. Uh, Meditation on sound, God's names, the sound of God is what is recommended. So here in this verse, among sacrifices, Krishna is saying, I am japa. And this is a very important verse for bhakti yoga. And it's also what Krishna says here, I am the syllable Om. That's another significant thing to ponder, because when we say Om, what is our intention? So, Bhagavad Gita is helping us to understand what the intention is when we say Om. Sometimes people just get into the sound Om, just literally just the sound. But Om is defined in various places in the sacred text as the a link with the Supreme, but it's an aspect of the Supreme. So if you all remember, because I've kind of harped on this particular thing that I'm going to say right now, God has three manifest perspectives: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So Brahman is the energy, it's the light, it's the great light, it's the energy that is the source energy for all substances. And that is an aspect of divinity that one can connect with. So Om is actually the sound vibration of Brahman. And that is why if someone meditates on Brahman, they will not be able to understand the other two features, because the other two features are person. Paramatma is the supreme in person form within the heart, and Bhagavan is the supreme personality of God that comes down and performs pastimes for our meditation, for our enlightenment, for our enthusiasm. So this is an understanding of what we have here. So among sacrifices, I am japa. And this is one of the most beloved verses for those that are practicing bhakti. And why japa? Why is the emphasis on japa? Well, like I said, it's sound vibration. It is, when we say, for instance, the Maha Mantra, the Hare Krishna mantra, we're saying Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So those 16 words, 32 syllables, are manifestations of the supreme Bhagavan feature, the personality, and his eternal consort, Radha. So that literal translation of that mantra is full of intention. It means, "O Krishna, O Radha, please allow me to engage in your service." So it elicits a mood of humility, a desire to connect in the bhakti yoga way, which is service to the Supreme. That our idea in bhakti is selfless service that we are giving. That is our offering to God. Everything. Yat karoshi, yat yashnasi, yat jahosi tadasi. All that you do, all that you offer, all that you give away in charity, all austerities that you perform, all of these things are done in a way with the intention of pleasing that personality we are offering our service to. So that is our offering. So japa is one of the primary ways to offer selfless devotional service to the Supreme. Why japa? Well, first off, in japa, there is no violence. Like in previous ages, when they performed animal sacrifices, the animal had to be slaughtered. In this particular sacrifice of japa, there is no violence. There's only the beautiful sound vibration. In japa, It's very meditative. There's the pratyahara, where you bring the senses within and you listen. You say very clearly the mantra, all 32 syllables or 16 words, Hare Krishna and Rama, and you meditate on the intention. So you have to say it clearly, the whole mantra, the whole 32 syllables. You have to hear it clearly. These are two integral parts of chanting japa, is to say it clearly and correctly, and also to hear it clearly and hear it correctly. And then, those two things are there when one chants japa. And one has the intention or the meaning of that mantra. And what is the meaning of that mantra? As I said, my dear Lord Krishna, my dear Srimati Radharani, please engage me in your devotional service. So that becomes our intention. Our intention is the meditation on the mercy aspect of the Supreme, to please allow me to engage in your in service to you selflessly. And then the fourth aspect of meditation on japa is that you should sit with head, neck, and back erect. That's just good posture. That keeps the energy there, and that helps you to focus on the meditation itself. So no violence. This is japa. No elaborate rituals. You don't have to do any kind of elaborate rituals when you are chanting japa. It's you and the holy names. It's accessible to everyone. It does not matter what culture you come from. Does not even matter what religion you are from. If you can understand the mantras in japa are the names of God, and if you can understand that or accept that, and you're chanting the names of God, it is accessible to you, everyone. I've seen in the 53 years, 54 years that I've been involved in bhakti, I've seen people from every culture, every religion. It did not matter. Once they, you know, were honest with themselves, and I'm looking for the path that'll connect me to God. That's all one needs, is that kind of open honesty. And then understanding what is japa and what I'm doing when I'm doing that. I'm connecting to God through sound vibration. So, I mean, even if you're of another religion, if you have your prayers and you're hearing and you're chanting and you're meditating, if you have that, then the proof. Srila Prabhupada, my guru, said the proof of something being a real religion is if you are developing your love for God. That is the proof. The proof of the pudding is in the tasting. So the proof of whether you are following your path or not is whether your love is increasing for God or not. That is the proof. It's not meant to be ritual. It's not meant to be secretive. None of these things are there. So it's accessible to everyone, and especially in this age of Kali Yuga, because, as I went over previously, that is the recommended Yuga Dharma for this age of Kali Yuga. Chant God's names, connect to the Supreme through sound vibration of his names. So, uh, this is, some of the things why Krishna is emphasizing japa here. So also in this particular verse, he mentions Krishna, what does he say? Amongst immovable things, I am the Himalayas. Is that here, right? Of the great sages, I am Brigu. So Brigu Muni was a very powerful sage. And he even was asked by the demigods to find out who is the Supreme. Brahma, Shiva, or Vishnu. So he created a test for each of those. One was physical, uh, verbal, and mental. So when he went to Brahma, he insulted Brahma, or yeah, he insulted Brahma, and he also no, he insulted Shiva. That's right. When he went to Shiva, Brigu said so many things. Oh, look at you! You have a snake around your neck, and you have ashes from the crematorium around you. I know what it was with Brahma. So with Shiva, he verbally insulted him. With Brahma, it was subtle. He did not pay his obeisances to Brahma, and Brahma got angry because Brahma thought this is inappropriate. He's not showing proper respect to me. So Brahma displayed anger on a subtle level because Brigu did not show proper respect. Shiva, when he was insulting Shiva and Parvati, then Shiva got angry and he grabbed his pitchfork and he was going to pierce Brigu with his pitchfork. When he went to this, so one was subtle, when he didn't show proper respect to Brahma. The other was verbal, where he verbally insulted Shiva and Parvati. And when he went to Vishnu, it was physical. He went up to Vishnu. Vishnu greeted him very nicely, and he kicked Vishnu in the chest. And Vishnu simply uh, said, "Oh, you have blessed me with the dust from your lotus feet, Bhrigu Muni." So, and Brigu was such a great sage that he was, deputed to make the determination between Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva as to who is of the Trinity, which one is the greater personality on that level. So, of vibrations, I am the transcendental Om. We spoke about that. Om being the sound vibration of Brahman, and then of sacrifices and the chanting of the holy names. We discussed about japa. And then the final thing is, and of immovable things, I am the Himalayas. So what the Himalayas, among immovable, the Himalayas, if you ever go to India and you happen to see the Himalayas, you'll just be awestruck. They're so powerful. And they, just by seeing them in relationship to yourself, it inspires humility. And they remind us of transcendence, because the Himalayas have always been a very sought after place for the great sages and saints and even avatars, incarnations, to appear or to go to in order to develop their further deepening of their connection with the Supreme. So that's 25. Let's move on to text 26. And how does text 26 read? You'll have to excuse me. Like I said, this is a different Gita than my one at home. It's a little smaller. Okay, here it says in text 26, of all trees, I am the banyan tree. Has everybody seen a banyan tree? Banyan trees are pretty amazing. I know there are banyan trees in Florida in different places, and they are just very powerful beings. So of all trees, I am the banyan tree, and of the sages among the demigods, I am Narad Muni. Of the Gandharvas, I am Chitravrata, and among perfected beings, I am the sage Kapila. So it's among trees, I am the banyan. Banyan tree is very powerful. A banyan tree looks like, when you look at a banyan tree, they grow to be very old. It looks like the embodiment of eternality. So quite often when you read in the Vedic texts, the sages will go sit under a banyan tree. A banyan tree has a great deal of potency, and it facilitates because it is a shelter provider. The banyan tree provides shelter, and even sages live under the banyan tree. Sometimes, if you see the way it's made, you have like a big indentation you can actually get into and become totally sheltered by the entirety of the tree, not just the leaves and the branches. So that's why, sages go there. It has this feeling of eternality and the provision of shelter. And the banyan tree also symbolizes longevity, because the tree itself can live to be very, very long time, hundreds and hundreds of years. And also the banyan tree, when there's a list of auspicious trees, the banyan tree is one, the fig tree is another, the tulsi tree or the holy basil, that is another. And of those that I just mentioned, tulsi is considered to be the holiest of trees because of her intimate connection with the lotus feet of the Lord Krishna. So that's the banyan tree. So next is mentioned Narad Muni. So what is saying here? And of the sages among the demigods, I am Narada. So what is Krishna doing again? He's done it before, and we've read different things that he is saying. I am the light of the sun and the moon. I am the sound of the syllable Om. I am the ability of man, etc. So Krishna is giving us again, for another time in this 10th chapter, he's giving us ways that we can meditate, characteristics, personalities, great objects like the trees and ocean and all of these things, so that when we see and we marvel at the wonderful qualities of the Himalayas or the banyan tree, etc., we understand that awe-inspiring characteristic of the banyan tree that is coming directly from Krishna. That awe-inspiring majesty of the Himalayan mountains and the appearance of transcendence, and that which is inspiring us in this way. That is Krishna saying, I am that quality, I am that characteristic, I am that essence. So here, Narad Muni is perhaps the greatest propagator of bhakti in all of bhakti history. He transforms lives wherever he goes. He has mystic powers beyond comprehension. The mystic power of Narad Muni is so great that he can travel all throughout the universe just by thought. He doesn't need any kind of Elon Musk spaceship to get to Mars or the moon. He himself can travel just by his thought, by the potency, power of his thought, his mystic power. He can travel anywhere and any time that he wants to. So Narada Muni is very well known because he travels and he informs people about the process of bhakti. Some of the personalities that are famous personalities that were students of Narada Muni are Vyasadev. Vyasadev is the compiler of the Vedas, the Mahabharata, all the different Vedic literatures. Vyasadev is called the literary incarnation of the Supreme Lord because he is empowered to uh, give us the accurate translation and understanding of these sacred texts. But Vyasadeva was the disciple of Narad Muni. When Vyasadeva came to a point where he was experiencing despondency because he went to a certain point in terms of his compilation of the Vedic literatures, but he did not include the essence of the Vedic literatures, the Siddhanta, the conclusion, the Bhagavad Purana, the Srimad Bhagavatam. And so when Narad Muni saw his despondency, he says, you have not sufficiently glorified the Supreme. And that is your despondency. You've given us an abundance of knowledge about every aspect of this material creation and so many things in relationship to the Supreme. But as far as giving us the actual real heart connection and love relationship, you haven't gone that far. And that's why you're feeling despondent. So was Narada Muni, who enthused, encouraged, and empowered Vyasadeva, his disciple, to continue in terms of his translation work. Prahlad was another student, and Prahlad is famous because Prahlad, he was a young boy. He was not very old. He was a very young boy. He was when he came into prominence in terms of his purity and his potency as a devotee of the Lord, he was 5 years old. He was the son of the greatest demon in the universe at that time. His name was Hiranyakashipu, and Hiranyakashipu was his father. So it shows that Prahlad, even though he was born in a demoniac family with a father who was the greatest of demons, he tortured and the demigods. He took over all of their possessions and captured their planets and so many different things. He was very, very powerful. But Prahlad was born in that family, and the reason that Prahlad became such a significant devotee of the Lord is because Narad Muni knew that the soul in the womb of his mother, Prahlad, in the womb of his mother, Narad Muni is so powerful mystically, he knew that that soul was a great soul. So when the demigods had actually, in Hiranyakashipu's absence, the demigods captured the abode of Hiranyakashipu. They were going to kill the wife of Hiranyakashipu because they said, "Oh, this great demon's wife now has an offspring. You know, there's going to be an offspring of this great demon, probably even a bigger demon." But Narad Muni came. He showed up in this place. Said, "No, the child within the womb of Hiranyakashipu's wife is a great devotee. She should come with me." So Narad Muni took her to his ashram, and every day he lectured to her about the principles of bhakti. Now, she wasn't so qualified to understand, so she would nod off. But Prahlad within the womb heard this. And then this is a tip, a very important tip for mothers that have children in their wombs. The child hears. So if you are pregnant, or if your daughter is pregnant, or somebody that you should always encourage them to listen to spiritual music, kirtan. When my older son was in the womb, he heard every day, he heard the Brahma Samhita. When my younger son, Nrsingadev, was in the womb, then my wife, every day, she would read Bhagavad Gita. Then she went on to the Srimad Bhagavatam. Then she went on in that 9-10 month period. Then she went on to the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So he was exposed to this knowledge, this wisdom of the sacred text in the womb. So naturally, when the child comes out, the child, because of those samskars means impressions, everything that we hear, we see, we taste, we touch. That's why there is an emphasis on an important emphasis on lifestyle and having a spiritual lifestyle, because spiritual lifestyle means you adjust your life in such a way that you are inputting into your mind the samskars, which are sacred samskars. And that the result of having those pure samskars there gives you a greater inclination towards spirituality. Why is someone inclined towards yoga? and spirituality and someone that has no inclination at all? It's because somewhere along their path, in a previous birth or in the womb, wherever, there has been exposure to spiritual sounds, spiritual events, spiritual food, something that has given them sanskars that can be activated. And the activation of a sanskar or of an impression is inclination. So when a person has inclination, that's why my spiritual teacher, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he started these Rath Yatra festivals. I don't know. I know if I look at the names here, I will know how many of you have been to Rath Yatra. Most of you have been to a Rath Yatra in the course of your life. And this is a parade and festival which is glorifying Krishna, Balaram, and their sister Subhadra. So why do that? Why spend New York Temple? They go down Fifth Avenue with these three majestic, monumental chariots, carts with the deities on them. And it is not a cheap endeavor. It costs a lot of money to get the proper permits, the carts themselves, all the paraphernalia involved in putting on such a festival. And why did Prabhupada emphasize doing this? It's because there, in that moment, a person may be shopping at Bloomingdale's or wherever. They come out the door and all of a sudden they hear a uproarious kirtan, God's names being chanted by hundreds and hundreds of people, the beautiful carts themselves and the deities on the carts. That is sanskara. Whether a person, the person's not going to a temple or not going to a sangha, a person comes in contact with that because they see and they hear and they'll smell the incense, all of these sensory inputs, they become sanskars. And if it happens more than once, they may see a Harinam party chanting on the street, chanting, or they may come across, someone that has books and they're giving out books, whatever. Each contact creates a very powerful and very potent sanskara. So that's why there is an openness. Each one of you had an openness. That's what separates you from being on the path that you're on from other people, because you had an openness. You had at the very least, a curiosity. And that curiosity was heightened when, you were in a situation which touched on the impression that was already there. And it deepened the impression. Just like if you walk through a field, it does not make a road. Walking through a field once, you may press the grass down a little bit. But if people are going through that field back and forth, back and forth, back and forth for a period of time, what is traversed, eventually becomes a path, and then eventually can become a road, because it's been traversed many times in that same exact area. So the impression, the sanskara, the more we repeat, that's why sadhana is so important. It's the repetition of God's names. It's the repetition of hearing the wisdom from the sacred text. It's the repetition of having association, sangha, with people who are very advanced on the particular path that they're seeking. This kind of practice is creating the path through the field. And if the path becomes beaten, it becomes a beaten path, and eventually becomes a wide road. So the emphasis, what you are doing, even taking like I said, the valuable time that you are taking on Tuesday night to hear Bhagavad Gita, the amount of sanskars you are creating. You're hearing this point and you think about it. You're hearing another point. And that's why it's important to try to remember these points or take notes of these points, review the notes. But what it is, beyond the note, beyond the reference, is creating sanskar. In other words, if you say to yourself after the class, what mountain did Krishna say he was? I am which mountain? And then you say, oh, Himalayas. That further deepens the sanskar. That's the path walked once and the path walked again. What did Krishna say of sacrifices? What did he recommend? Japa. Oh, japa. Oh, great. And then you just keep going over points like that. Who was the really biggest propagator of bhakti? Narad Muni. Oh, Narad Muni. And who did Narad Muni affect, in his travels? Vyasadeva, Prahlad, Dhruva, Valmiki. All of these great Valmiki, he compiled the Ramayana. Dhruva was the famous prince who wanted a kingdom greater than his father's and went out into the forest, performed Ashtanga yoga for many months. And he actually had darshan with the Supreme. All of these personalities are mentioned. And to hear about them, advanced personalities. First, number one is their connection to Narad Muni, but number two, they in and of themselves were very important personalities. So, 26, I read 26. Let's move on to 27. Of horses, know me as to be Uchai Ishrava, produced during the churning of the ocean for nectar. Of lordly elephants, I am Airavata, and among men, I am the monarch. That's why many cultures, isn't it amazing? Many cultures considered, in monarchy, considered the king to be the representative of God. And Krishna says that right here and among men, I am the monarch. So, lordly elephants, I am Ayurvata. Ayurvata was the elephant of King Indra, the king of the demigods, and he was very powerful elephant. He was the mount. Indra rode Ayurvata into battle and so many different places. So Ayurvata is considered, of all the elephants, he's considered the chief elephant. And Uchai Shrava was when the ocean of nectar was churned by the demigods and the demons. Many things came out of that ocean, and one was this beautiful horse, Uchai Shrava. So Krishna says, "I am Uchai Shrava." This is 28. Okay, 28. Of weapons, I am the thunderbolt. Among cows, I am the Sarabi. Of causes for procreation, I am Kandarpa, the god of love. And of serpents, I am Vashuki. The thunderbolt indeed is a mighty weapon. It represents Krishna's power. The thunderbolt was also the weapon of King Indra. So it represents power. And quite often especially the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Purana, you'll see Indra in different battles that he had. His power, his battle power was because he had the weapon of the thunderbolt. So Krishna is marking that as the most significant weapon, and I am that. So when you think of the thunderbolt, even it's nice. how many times, those of you who are live in Florida or elsewhere, I know many times I'm riding down 95 in Florida, or I'm on the beach in Florida, and you see on the horizon the thunderbolt, and it's so beautiful, and it's such a powerful, has such a powerful presence. So yeah, and then he mentions cows. I am Kamadhenu. Among causes of creation, I am Kandarpa. Kandarpa is Cupid, or the god of love. Now, in Bhakti, the god of love love, and love making is a spiritual action, because Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that I am sex according to religious principles. So when you are in relationship, proper relationship, and there's intimacy, there's exchange, love exchange in that particular way. Eventually, there's procreation. There's a child that is born. Then it is said that Kandarpa, the god of love, Cupid, is inspiring that, and this is considered a sacred act when seen from that perspective. So text 29 reads as follows, and then we'll conclude with 30 today. Text 29 says, of the many hooded Nagas, I am Ananta, and among the aquatics, I am the demigod Varuna. Of departed ancestors are Yama, and among the dispensers of law, I am Yama, or Yamaraj, the Lord of Death. So uh, Ananta is this many-headed serpent. You see Ananta Shesh. Lord Vishnu lies down on Ananta Shesh, and he represents unlimitedness. He supports all the universes, and he also serves the Supreme Lord eternally in that capacity as his bed, or sofa, so to speak. His greatness is expressed and seen through his service and his service attitude. Yama of what does he say? Um, as you say, of dispensers of law. So every society has their laws. And like the ultimate in law is the legislative body who makes the laws, and the judges who, enforce the laws. And the personality of law is Yamaraj. And Yamaraj is the demigod of death. And what Yamaraj does is he is the judge. So when we perform actions, there's reactions and there's a record. If we're under the law of karma, there's a record of all of our activities. And at the time of death, there's judgment. In Christianity, they say Judgment Day. But in the Vedic text, they say you go before Yamaraj. There is a whole listing of the good and the bad and the ugly that you've performed during your life, and then there's judgment. So, of law givers, we have Yamaraj. Justice without hatred. He's the embodiment of justice without hatred, divine law. He imparts divine law, and he is a reminder that every action has consequences. So, one more verse, and then I'll open it up for you to discuss. Among the Daitya demons, I am the devoted Prahlad. Among subduers, I am time. Among beasts, I am the lion. And among birds, I am Garuda. So, Prahlad, this is why would Krishna choose a uh, personality, Prahlad, who was born from the womb of a demon, from the father who was the biggest demon in the universe, right? Because what the statement is here is bhakti transcends birth. This is a common understanding amongst bhakti yoga practitioners, Vaishnavas, that your birth is not important. You cannot be, it's not, and this is the distinction between caste system, which places emphasis on birth, and what Krishna is talking about here. Caste system is a misunderstanding of natural order, natural social order. In other words, according to Krishna, chatur, that means for varnam maya shristam guna karma vibhagasaha. It means the four orders based on your nature were given by Krishna. And it's not by birth. Caste system means by birth. In other words, if I was born in a low class, I took a low class birth, then that's it. That's where I'm at. I can only be considered that, and I can't do any kind of puja in the temple. I can't become a Brahmin. None of those things. That's caste system. Everything is tied into birth. And that was designed that way when the Brahmin, the priestly class, became corrupted in the age of Kali Yuga. They're the ones who imposed that understanding, or rather that misunderstanding. Oh, you're lowborn. You can't do this. You can't study Sanskrit. You can't do yoga. You can't do any of these things. You just have to work. You have to do the lowest kind of menial service to mankind. But that is not what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. And that is not what is represented here by Prahlad. Prahlad was born in a demonic family, but yet he's glorified as one of the greatest devotees. So bhakti, when one practices bhakti yoga, that transcends any kind of material designation. They're no longer applicable. When you immerse yourself in bhakti yoga, when you're dedicating yourself, when your life becomes an offering to the Supreme, as is done in bhakti yoga, then those birth, where you took birth, how your education, those are not really important components. So Prahlad here is glorified as like the emblem of bhakti, and therefore that is Krishna. And that's why, Prahlad was chosen by Krishna. Bhakti transcends birth. And Prahlad proves devotion is stronger than environment. His fearlessness came from complete dependence on Krishna. And then he mentions time. Time is the subduer, the great subduer. We can see it in our own cases. We grow old. We become much more subdued. Our energy level and all that, our movement, becomes subdued. Time conquers everyone. No one conquers time. Kings are conquered by time. Presidents are conquered by time. Empires are conquered by time. Bodies are conquered by time. Youth is conquered by time. Only when we come to the point of immersing ourselves into bhakti, time is not a factor. So, because at any age, you can perform bhakti right up until the time where you're the most infirmed that you can possibly be. I'll tell you a beautiful, heartbreaking story in one regard, but encouraging in another. I have a friend, her name is Radhika Bhakti, and her husband Man, and they had a beautiful daughter named Mehek, who got initiated with Midoriya Radha. 9 years old, she had for 2 years, from 7 to 9, she had brain cancer, and it wasn't a pleasant thing for her. She had to go through chemotherapy and so many things. 9 years old, you can imagine. But Madhurya Radha Mehek, right before she passed away, she was so immersed in Krishna consciousness. She was chanting. I went over one day, my wife and I, I went over and she asked that I chant. I do kirtan. So it's just me and Mehak. She was lying on the sofa and I was sitting in a chair and I had a little pair of kartals and I was chanting Hare Krishna mantra. And then my wife and Mehak's mother, Radhika Bhakti, were talking in the background. And Mehak sat up and she said to her mother, "Shh, I want to hear kirtan." And then she lay down again. So you can see that time did not subdue that beautiful soul. Time melted away, and that beautiful soul simply became what she is eternally. And that is a devotee of God, a devotee of the Supreme Lord. So it may have subdued her body, but it did not subdue her essence as a great devotee of the Supreme. So time is a subduer of everything except when you are immersed in bhakti. The lion, king of the jungle, right? It's the animal embodiment of majesty, fearlessness, and natural authority. Garuda, the great carrier, a bird carrier of Lord Vishnu. Strength, he represents strength, dedication to his devotional service to Lord Vishnu, and thus he becomes glorious over the course of time. Power without service becomes arrogance. So all these, I'm wearing Hanuman. Andrew gave me this nice shirt of his. I'm wearing Hanuman. So how powerful is Hanuman? Hanuman is so powerful, but never arrogant, humble, protective, but always humble. So that's how we protect ourselves from arrogance. We may be a great musician, we may be beautiful, we may be highly educated. How do we protect ourselves from arrogance and doing service to the Supreme, seeing our life in service to the Supreme? That cultivates the characteristic or the quality of humility. And without humility, one cannot understand the Supreme. Okay, I'm going to stop here. I'm running out of juice on all my devices here. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Any observations that you would like to make? Any aha moments that you had during this time that we were talking?
I have just one quick question.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Where does Narada Muni reside?
Narada Muni, he doesn't stay anywhere longer than 3 days. He's constantly traveling. That is his service. That's why he's considered the greatest giver of bhakti, because he doesn't reside more than 3 days at any one place. He just travels and shares the nectar of the holy name. He sings. There's a song. Narada Muni Bajai Vina Radhika Ramana Name. Narada Muni Bajai, the Veena, plays the Veena and sings Radhika Ramana Name. Radhika, Radharani, Rama, Krishna, and he sings Radhika Ramana, Radhika Ramana. So that's Narad Muni. We used to call him the transcendental spaceman because he travels all over. Thank you for that question, Jai Krishna Das. Any other question or comment, observation, or some point that really sticks with you, a point that made something clear that wasn't clear to you before, or you knew it but it crystallized? Anyone would like to share with the rest of us? Give us the blessing of your association that way. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you all for being with me this evening. Um, I hope you have a happy, healthy, and holy week ahead of you. I'm here in Gita Nagari, uh, Eco Farm. I'm here until the 18th. The camp ends on the 18th, and then we move on the 19th to the Palace of Gold in the mountains of West Virginia. And then my son, Nisringadev, goes to Camp 2, the second camp. So he's getting a nice immersion. And the beauty of these camps is that I think this camp has 40 kids and they're all on the same page, both materially and spiritually. They all have parents that are involved in some way, shape, or form in bhakti, to one degree or the next, and want to see their child, grow and develop in that way. So a lot of these kids are just pleasures to be. I'm kind of like a volunteer counselor for this camp, and I'll be a volunteer counselor for the New Vrindavan in West Virginia camp too. And I do whatever they ask me to do. I do. They asked me to play basketball with them, so I beat them in basketball the other day, and they were shocked that a 76-year-old could still shoot basketball. But whatever is required, that's what I do, and it's wonderful being here. The prasadam is amazing. Really, the kids they just get really treated nicely here, and for a very reasonable cost. Today we went to a beautiful lake right underneath a mountain. There's a mountain behind and the lake there. All the kids went kayaking and swimming in the lake, and it was a nice day. That's why I was a little late because I'm driving them all back. I've got 13 kids, 13 screaming kids. They're all arguing about who's going to win the World Cup, and the whole trip back. It's who's the greatest soccer player, and then my wife had to divert their attention, and they played a game, named the capital of each state. So we did that for a while, but I got back here at about 6:45. And by the time I got showered and everything, I was a little bit late, but thank you for waiting for me. I appreciate it. And we'll see you. We'll see you next week. I think I'll be able to pull it off next week in New Vrindavan in the mountains of West Virginia. I just need to find a place like I have here. I'm in the Eco Farms Cafe, and I'm getting decent reception here. So it's beautiful too. Beautiful farm land and cows and peacocks all over the place. So if you ever have an opportunity to come this way, you should definitely stop at they call it the Gita Valley Eco Farm. And it's nice. Everything is very reasonably priced, the rooms and the prasadam, everything. So come this way. All right, we'll see you next Tuesday. Hare Krishna to all of you. Love you all.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very
Hare
much.
Krishna. Thank you for
Thank you
class.
for your
See you next
association.
Tuesday.
Haribo, Haribo.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.